Hi, Politics of Language. So this is my video diary response to our game of Monopoly that we played. And I was assigned to the poor class position, so I only started with $500. And I definitely felt disadvantaged at first because the rules dictated that I could only buy certain properties, which were the first two on the board, and I immediately passed them and just started roaming the board and hoping I wouldn't have to pay rent. But then I landed on a yellow property and started asking our upper class banker if I could buy the property since I thought I could afford it. And he was particularly benevolent and said, sure, go ahead. So he let me buy a property that was probably way above or something that I couldn't afford. It was over a fifth of my total wealth, but I bought it anyways. But thankfully, after a while, the banker decided that he wanted to buy that property back from me because he owned a yellow property himself, and so he wanted to start collecting more. And he offered to buy it back for $500 when I'd bought it for about $130. And so originally he offered the actual price, and I said, no, I'm not going to sell it back for $130, and then he offered $500. So thankfully, in this case, the value of it appreciated, but the more I thought about it, the more I realized that this sort of modeled like the current housing crisis, and that let me buy a property that was above my means that I couldn't afford to keep, and in real life, with the housing crisis, the value of it definitely would have depreciated over time, and I would have lost even more money when I sold it again, if I could afford to, or if I could sell it. So I definitely did renegotiate my role by kind of asking to break the rules and seeing how the upper class banker would respond to that. And I was wondering if this sort of manipulation of the rules represents a removal of cultural barriers to the poor, or if people bending the rules for their own benefit. So, I mean, I had the money, and me and another girl in the poorer class were willing to sort of try to negotiate, and we were savvy enough to ask questions and challenge the authority of the rules, but other members of the working class didn't, and I think they were upset by that. So I don't feel that we did anything wrong. We just asked and tried to use the resources that we had. So it was a really interesting experience. I ended up ranked third, but I'd only gained $200, while the next highest ranked person had over $1,000. So the gap between the rich and the poor definitely widened, which was interesting to see the distribution of wealth at work. And it was a really great experience.